What? 10 seconds? Hey, so there's something special about having a ticking clock that adds a whole new layer of challenge to a cooperative game. Here are 3 games that have everybody working together against some sort of timer. Let's start the clock. Quicksand is a real-time cooperative game in which players attempt to move a group of sand timers along a track of gear tiles, crossing the finish line before time runs out. The track is made up of gear tiles that come in 3 different colors and display 4 different symbols. The player deck is made up of cards that match those symbols and colors, as well as 6 wild cards. The timers come in 3 different speeds, and the primary difficulty adjustment revolves around how many of each timer are in the game, as well as what order they are in. Well, that and how many tiles are laid out before you get to the diffuse marker, after which you'll find one last tile for each timer. Once all the tiles have been laid out and the timers are in position, each player gets 3 face-down cards from the deck. When everyone is ready, the timers are flipped, everyone looks at their cards, and the game begins. The players quickly discuss which one of them should take the first turn. After this, players take turns clockwise until the game is won or lost. On a turn, you play 1 card from your hand, moving matching timers, and draw a card, flipping over the discard pile if necessary. When playing a card, you clearly announce what's on the card. You then activate all of the timers that match that card. So, gray card, flip all timers on gray tiles. Square card, flip all of the timers on square symbols. Timers are flipped starting with the one closest to the finish line, and if the space directly in front of the timer is empty, the timer advances when flipped. If the space is occupied, however, the timer still flips, but it stays put. A wild card can be used to flip any one timer, but it can also be used to recover a lost timer. See, if a timer runs out of sand before the players have time to flip it, it gets placed off the board and gets flipped one more time. A wild card can be played to flip that timer again and bring it back onto the board where it left. If that space is full, however, the wild card just flips the timer and it stays off the board. Keep in mind that there are only so many wild cards in the deck, so keeping one handy for an emergency is important. If a timer that is off the board runs out of sand, the players lose. All of the sand timers need to cross the diffuse marker and remain running in order to win the game. Future difficulty levels will add additional gear tiles to the path, add timers, or mix those timers up so the slower timers are farther forward in the line. Additional rules get added as well, such as communication limits amongst the players, blockade tokens that must be cleared to advance, forcing cards to face backwards in players' hands, or removal of cards from the deck. If you can complete level 21 successfully, you've truly mastered the game. Quicksand is the epitome of tactical triage. What is the most critical thing for me to deal with, and is it better for me to make a suboptimal move just to get out of the way of the next player in line who can do something? Not everything is a rush, though. Slow playing a particular move in order to make sure the sand timer flips at just the right moment is sometimes the key, but waiting too long could put a faster timer in jeopardy. Recommended for players who enjoy intense communication. 8 out of 10. The Ted Lasso Party Game is a cooperative card game based on the hit Apple TV series in which players attempt to raise the morale of AFC Richmond to 45 before the end of 4 rounds of play. 5 locations are placed on the table, each one getting a card from the character deck. The deck has duplicates of the characters, so if one comes up that's already on the board, it's put on the bottom of the deck and replaced. Each character has an indicated number of treble tiles. These are drawn from the biscuit box and placed under the character. The symbols represent the different difficulties that the coaches will attempt to overcome. Coach's beard and lasso begin on the pitch and coach's office, respectively. 24 believe cards are dealt out as evenly as possible amongst the players. Players can talk strategy, but can't look at their cards until the 2-minute timer starts. An event card is flipped, which will implement a special rule for the round, and when everyone is ready, time begins. Once the timer starts, players will continuously take turns until time runs out or they run out of cards. On a turn, a player chooses one color card in their hand and plays all of that color. Wild cards can be played with any group or even on their own. Played cards can go in one of 3 places: to one of the locations where a coach is, to the Move a Coach box, after which one of the coaches can move to any location, or to the Self-Care space, which can be used later to discard tiles. After all of the cards of the chosen color have been played, it's the next player's turn. When time runs out or all cards have been played, locations resolve. If a character was ignored and has no cards, they get an additional trouble tile. A sixth tile is not drawn for a character. Rather, morale just goes down one. Players then match as many believe cards as possible to the symbols on the trouble tiles, removing them from the character. Keep in mind that characters and locations may have special rules for certain colors. 5 cards on the self-care stack may be removed to get rid of any one trouble tile. If all of the tiles are removed on a character, they score either a set amount of morale or roll the football die a number of times. A red 1 scores a single morale and then rolls again. If the players ran out of time before playing all their cards, they lose 3 morale. After this, cards are shuffled and dealt, a new event is revealed, characters are replaced and stocked with trouble tiles, and a new round begins. Players win if they cross 45 morale before the end of the 4th round. In typical Funko Games fashion, Ted Lasso puts much of its effort in presentation. Touches on the box and in the rulebook will delight fans of the show, and rolling the football die in the box is novel. The biscuit box is a nice touch as well, although a little impractical for a draw cup. The time pressure and logistical puzzle offers some interesting choices, but ultimately I found the game too easy. While it took our group a round or two to get used to the pace of the game, once we got the hang of it, we won consistently. The repeats in the character deck are weird as well, especially as the powers are different. I wish they had dug up 7 other characters from the show to mix things up. Superfans of the show might find this enjoyable, but there's not much here for hobbyist gamers. 5 out of 10. NOOBS in Space is a cooperative teamwork card game in which players solve a series of 8 missions by playing cards in their hand in the proper way, while avoiding communication pitfalls that might lead the group astray. Each mission uses a different set of cards, though many cards are used in multiple missions. Simple markings on the back of the cards help with sorting, as well as a chart to double-check that all the required cards have been collected. These cards are distributed as evenly as possible amongst the players. Some of the puzzles involve colors. If any of the players at the table have difficulty distinguishing colors, swap all of the cards with this symbol with other players for ones that don't have the symbol. Once all players are ready, a stopwatch is started and everyone looks at their cards. Each scenario has a number of tasks that must be completed, represented by these numbered instruction cards. However, the cards necessary to complete those tasks may be in other players' hands, and the task might not even make sense without the context on those cards. For example, this task asks for 2 monitors that are missing the same image. Players will soon realize that they need to compare the 4 monitor cards that have been spread throughout everyone's hands. Players are not allowed to show their cards to anyone, but they may read or describe them as they wish. A card shouldn't be played to the table unless specifically asked, and once it's on the table, it can't be removed. Once a task has been completed, players move on to the next in sequence, continuing until all are complete. Then the timer is stopped. Players then compare what they did to the display in the rulebook. For each numbered task that is incorrect, the players add 3 minutes to their final time, regardless of how many individual errors that were made on the task. Then, the team gets a number of stars based on how long it took them to complete all the tasks. For most of the levels, anything under 10 minutes is excellent. Players can either stop after a single level or move on to the next scenario, in which case cards are resorted and redealt, and a new level begins. Some challenges may seem to repeat from level to level, but the different mix of cards in everyone's hand will make a seemingly familiar task play out very differently. In fact, the game seems designed to trip you up by twisting your expectations. NOOBS in Space is quite simply a game about communication and observation. A team that excels at assessing and describing what's in their hand will be able to suss out the more complicated challenges, while those that plunge ahead without thinking will find themselves in trouble quickly. The time pressure is more subtle in this game, as it's not a hard countdown, but just a timer in the background on the way to securing a higher score. Some of the higher-level challenges can get tricky with order of operations, and we ran into one instance where the team thought the solution was incorrect. This is a perfect game for team-building situations, like a youth group or corporate retreat. Replay is a little hampered by the fact that there is a solution to each level, but while a single repeat player may be able to ward against falling into some specific pitfalls, the different distribution of cards each time means that a mixed group of old and new players can still find a challenge in this box. The system is intriguing though, and I look forward to future releases in the series. 8 out of 10. All right, let's stack them up. On the bottom, yeah, you knew it. Ted Lasso's going to go there. Ted, I love you. The show was great. The game just didn't do much for me. But next up is going to be Noobs in Space. I really like the system, but the finality of those 8 challenges, while you can play it with a different group, it doesn't work well playing it with the same group, since you're going to know pretty much what's going to happen. So that puts Quicksand on the top. I'm really excited to work my way through all of those challenges. The time frame works so well here. I just like this distilled, focused challenge of getting those timers to the finish line. Really nice game. So there you have it, 3 cooperative challenges that utilize a timer. And on that, I think my time is up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Here are 3 games that has everybody... Ugh, I bit my own teeth. How do you do that? Okay, hang on.